concept that we are going to look at today is Spring Data JPA repository. Okay, so how we are going to utilize Spring Data JPA repository. Okay, so yeah, day before yesterday, we were.
Hey, are you able to hear me properly?
Yeah, now it's clear, Harish. Now I'm able to hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So what I was telling, right? Actually, we were learning about entity manager and persistent context. What are all these annotations, and how we are going to interact with DB. That's what we learned till day before yesterday. So today, we are going to do very simplified process, like with the help of JPA. Okay. Spring Data JPA. Okay, so how we are going to do that? We'll just introduce one more new class. Okay, to to implement the database related changes. Sorry, database related connection class over here, and then using that. Okay, we are going to interact with the DB. Okay, similarly, whatever we have done for previously. Okay, so let me add one more extra package, and I'll just separate it. Spring Data JPA. Okay, another is I'm gonna create one new interface course Spring Data JPA repository. Okay, so I'm gonna extend this course Spring Data JPA repository, from one of the interface JPA. Okay. Okay. So what we need to define, actually JPA repository requires, a definition, like, for the which database that you are trying to connect and what is the primary key, we have it. So yeah, we are not directly contacting with, the database, right? We have to connect with our bean class, whatever we created, which is acting as a, repository for us. Right? So what was that? It is course.java, right? We created course.java and we define it as an entity. So, it is equals to the DB table, right? So the type is course. And the ID is whatever it is, the course.java ID. Just a minute. Just define, sorry. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, so what we need to do, how we are just telling that, this is the table and ID is, long type. Okay, so that JPA, yeah. So like this, course and long. Okay, so what this does, right? Whatever the implementations that we saw till now. Okay, so we were like, one second. Okay, so whatever the implementations that we have done till, actually, if you remember, we were checking on these things. Okay, yeah. So if you see here, we were writing queries and we were writing methods, to call all those, to make a connection and to perform something related to DB operation. Okay, but Spring Data JPA provides a very, very less of code, and you don't require to write anything related to query and anything related to these methods. So it is all already defined, but what you need to do, we have to pass the table, like the entity name and the ID data type. That's it. Okay, so whatever we have it here now, actually, it is just, it is just giving, you know uh, like, it's an interface, but it is having a multiple methods under JPA repository that we already extended into core Spring Data JPA repository. So let's see now how we can call the course, the Spring Data JPA repository methods, and how we can access the DB, in very simplified way. Okay, just a minute. I'll just go back here. Okay, I already have those written. Yeah, just a minute. Yeah. Okay, so just gonna comment this. Okay, we'll just declare one more private course. Course data JPA repository. Why it is not coming? Okay. To okay, so if you see it here, what we have done, it is like very simple. Okay, so I have did the same way, whatever we have done it for the other classes, whatever we have created, in the previous classes. So I just, added a private variable for the interface that whatever we have created today, and I just auto write so that Spring can maintain the life cycle of it, right? So after that, what I'm trying to do, I'm utilizing the same object, whatever it is created, and repo.save. So the save is the method, okay, uh, you know, which is helping us, to save the data into a database. So for which table it is going to save it? Yeah, so that we already defined our entity, in the JPI repository, right? So it is going to save the data to the same repository, whatever we have defined in that interface. Okay, course. So the entity, whatever we have defined it as course. So that means whatever the data that you are giving, actually it is going to save the data into that table. Okay, so let's see whether if it is going to save or so these are the four records which I'm saving it. And so what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to delete one of the record, third record, using delete by ID. So delete by ID is also one of the predefined method, okay, from the JPA, right? So if you see here, so what we are passing, the ID, the primary key of it. So why I have L? Because I defined it as long. So I'm just passing it as 3L. Okay, 3L, to delete the third row of the the course table, right? So later, I was trying to pull that DB records data, using find by ID. So find by ID with the ID, whatever we are passing it here, 4 or 2, it is going to print the data. Okay, so let's see if it is if it's able to connect the DB and okay. Yeah, okay. If you see here, it started executing them. And yeah, and we got this ID equals to 4, and we got the ID equals to 2, right? So let's see. Let me just go back here. Yeah, 4 and 2, we were trying to print it. So we should not be having 3 record, right? Let's go back and check in the database. Okay, so I can see the course table over here, which is already created. And yeah, if I run the query, you see only 1, 2, 4 records because third one got deleted, right? So because we inserted this, and in that we deleted one of the row, and we retrieved 2, 4 and 2 records, right? So I'll show you something here. Okay, if you see here, so what we are trying, what this is doing actually, so the implementation, it shows like Hibernate, right? Okay, so it is running the query, okay, and it is inserting the records to make sure it should not have an issue with the primary key. Okay, so that's why it ran the query first, whether do we have any records in the table with the same ID. If it is, it is not going to insert it actually. Okay, and the second one also, it repeated the same thing. So it is going to repeat the same steps for how many saves that you are using. So it repeated all those things, and then it tried to retrieve one more time, and it tried to delete that ID. Okay, and later, we have a couple of select queries, like, for displaying the values for 4 and displaying the values for second, right? ID 2. So it displayed properly, correct? Yeah. So what we have done, we did not do any kind of coding for writing the queries, and for writing any implementation methods, from the existing interfaces or something, right? We directly used the methods which it is already there, in the JPA repository. So, save, delete by ID, and find by ID. There are a lot of other things also we can explore from this Spring Data JPA. Okay, so the best thing with Spring Data JPA, right? You can write your own methods also, to display, some kind of uh, user defined methods. You can also write in the Spring Data JPA. Okay, and you can change them whatever the requirement that you have it. Okay, but you have to follow certain steps, okay, to implement those things. Okay, so let's see, a couple of examples, like, how to implement those kind of methods. Okay, user defined methods into the uh one second, let me close this. Okay, okay, so what I've done actually, if I go back and check in the table, okay, so we have ID, we have author, and we have name. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to pull some data. Okay, right now what we are trying to do here in the code, we were trying to pull the data, utilizing ID, right? Find by ID, some 4L or something, we were trying to retrieve it, correct? So if you want to okay, yeah, if you want to define, or if you wanted to pull the records based upon author, or if you wanted to pull the records based upon name, so we don't have those kind of methods available in the JPA. So what we need to do, we have to define a user defined methods. Okay, user defined methods, to perform those kind of operations. Okay, so let's go with one by one. And first, we will define for author, and then we'll check how it is working, and then we'll go with the name. Okay, so the first one, you make sure that you have same name. We have to use the similar same name whatever we have it in the entity. Okay, so that Spring Data JPA will take care of the list of course. Okay, that's it. If you do this right, what it is trying to do, it is find by author. Okay, so what it is finding, based upon the string that you provided, so it is going to retrieve the list of objects. What type of objects? Course. Okay, so the data, whatever we have it, whatever it can find based upon this author, it is going to give you the list of objects, I mean to say the list of records. Okay, records of course, and that we can display on the screen. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, 1 second. Let me stop the server. Come on, line runner. So what we're gonna use? Report dot find by author, right? So you can see here, right? Find by author. Yeah, let's do something different. Okay, 1 second. ABC training. Okay. ABC training and ABC training. Okay. So what I'm gonna pass, I'm just going to pass author name as ABC training. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Okay. If you see here, so what it is done, what it is doing, it already printed till this point. You guys are already aware how it is performing all the queries and it is doing those things, right? So this is a new query which it performed based upon author. Okay, so what it is done, it created a query. Okay, so where in the where condition, it created an author. So but we did not mention anything except that defining the method with the proper naming convention like find by author. So author is the column name, we have it in the class. Okay, sorry, in the interface. So based on that name, actually it tried to retrieve the data. So if you see here what we have given on the I'm sorry, 1 second. Yeah, what we have given, ABC training, right? So ABC training, how many records we have? 1, 2 and 3. So it gave us 3 different records. Okay, which are on ABC training. The first one is this, second one is this, and third one is this, right? So we got the 3 records, which are based on author. So this is how you can implement your own user defined methods, in a very, in using a proper syntax, for defining that, uh, using those variable, whatever we have it on entity, you have to utilize the same thing, and you can write the method. Okay, so we'll define one more method, find by name, and we'll see. Okay. Yeah, I think we have this one. One second. So it's an empty call. So let's see how it does, what it does. See, if it is empty string, it did not return any values over here, right? Yeah. So let me jump back, to add one more extra method, based upon the name. Okay. So yeah, it is very simple. That's it. Okay. So you don't require to write any implementation, same as find by author. However, we declared it, you can utilize the same thing, find by name. Okay. So let me copy paste this to the command line runner. Yeah. So I'm looking for one specific name, full stack data spring, full stack, spring data JPA. Okay. So let's see, if it is going to print it or not. Save it and run the application. Yeah. Yeah. If you see here, so it was trying to, uh, utilize the name column, to pull the data, right? So what we passed full stack spring data JPA, and we got the response, okay, based upon the name, right? So the query is getting changed depending on your requirement, whatever you are passing it here. So if you are using find by ID, it is using ID column as a in the where condition. And if you are using author, it is utilizing author as the ID, and sorry, instead of ID, it is utilizing author in the where condition, right? And if you are utilizing name, yeah, it is going to utilize the same thing, in the where condition. So this is how, like, Spring Data JPA, provides very less coding, and you can implement your own methods, user defined methods, depending on your requirement. You can also implement them in the interface, whatever you have defined. Okay. So you don't require to write the code, or you don't require to implement anything until unless if you required something, sorting. Okay. If you wanted to perform some different type of sortings, or in that case, yeah, you can still implement this interface into a class, and you can still utilize this find by author. Okay. And you can have those kind of things, can be implemented uh, in the child classes. Okay. So you can utilize them. But yeah, so if you don't want anything, like, if it is very specific to retrieval, if it is like very specific to find by something, with the column names. Okay. You can just simply define those methods over here. I mean to say declare those methods over here. So rest of the steps will be taken care by JPA. Okay, Spring Data JPA. Okay. Yeah, the only thing that we need to do is defining these two. Okay, what is the entity and what is the primary key data type of that table? That's it. So it can be handled by Spring Data JPA, everything. Okay. Yeah, this is how we utilize this. And okay, let me go for the next topic. Okay, let's understand, okay, what exactly this we have done till now. Okay, so yeah, so we initially started with JDBC, okay, writing a lot of SQL queries, and we were trying to insert, all the we were trying to insert all the data using multiple insert queries, and later we have okay, for all the insert queries and delete and update, whatever we are doing, we are writing lot of SQL queries in the JDBC, right? And not only the JDBC, sorry, the SQLs, but we were writing lot of code in the Java side also, to implement or to utilize those queries, to talk with database, right? So the next approach we took as Spring JDBC. Okay, so here also we write lot of queries, but we were utilizing like Spring JDBC defined methods. Okay, yeah, so we were utilizing that in the Java code, so that it is very less code compared to the JDBC, whatever the first implementation that we have done. So when it comes to the JPA, actually, we have the entity manager and the other concepts which was helping us, to make the simplified code in the Java side, and also it simplifies the SQL queries. You don't require to write any queries in the code. So yeah, after when we came to JPA, actually, we were stopped writing the queries. We were utilizing some of the annotations like @entity, @entity manager. So sorry, persistent context, and we were utilizing entity manager, to perform all the database operations, right? So one more step ahead, actually, we utilize Spring Data JPA that makes even more simpler, okay, to compare all the three approaches that we have learned, right? So Spring Data JPA, simply take everything on its own. We just need to define we just need to declare what we really required. Okay, so that's what we have done. That is also only for the user defined methods. Okay, otherwise you don't require to write a single line of code, okay, except creating those interface and extending JPA repository with the table name, with the entity name and the data type of the primary key. Okay, so this is how we learned about JDBC to Spring JDBC and to JPA to Spring Data JPA. Okay, and you can see the examples, right? JDBC example, we have written a lot of code, and Spring Data JDBC, we were utilizing that JDBC template, and we were utilizing update method, to perform that delete operation, right? Okay, so now it comes to Hibernate versus JPA. Okay, so we were talking about Hibernate, we were talking about JPA, so there might be little confusion over here, but still, there is nothing like that. Okay, so JPA is an API. Okay, So what it does actually, JPA defines the specifications. Okay. So if you go back and check our code, so whatever the annotations that we were trying to utilize in JPA, okay, in our class, yeah, most of them are coming from Jakarta persistence. Okay, right? So from there, we were trying to define our entities. We were trying to map our attributes, and uh, so whenever we define those entities, whenever we map our attributes, actually JPA itself is managing, all these things in the background. Okay, so that you can just call whatever you need, like find by ID, or you wanted to save something to the DB, or you wanted to update something, or you wanted to delete something, that is taken care by, we were just writing only the business logic of it, right? So we never worried about what is the method for save, what is the method for find by ID, where is the logic, and you don't require to worry about those things. So JPA defines all those specifications. Okay. So that means, whenever you go back and check it over here in the course.java. So we were utilizing, there are number of annotations at the rate entity. So it is saying Jakarta persistence and Jakarta persistence ID, right? So, but you have couple of other options also when you trying to import, right? So if you see here, one second, let me remove this. Let me remove this. Okay. Why it is not showing that? Just a minute. Just a minute, one second. Yeah, let me check. Okay, so might be it did not pull the Maven dependencies. Okay, yeah, so I'll show you that. Okay, but yeah, so what I was trying to say, the JPA defines the specification. Okay, so it is an API. So when I say API, actually we have most of the implementations on the JPA. So Hibernate is one of the popular implementations, which is utilizing JPA. Okay, so you know so what we have done here, actually, we can utilize Hibernate, as a implementation over here. Okay, so if I implement Hibernate directly in this class, okay, so this particular project will be very sticky, with the Hibernate implementation. But what we have done, we have implemented, instead of going with an Hibernate, we have went directly with JPA, so that in future, if you wanted to implement any other, uh, you know, any other implementations of this JPA, sorry, uh, like, Hibernate or TopLink, okay, so you can easily utilize that, okay, in your application. Okay, so what I'm trying to say, so if you go with Hibernate, you have to stick with that Hibernate, for the entire project, right? So if you go with JPA, you can play with multiple implementations of JPA. Like, you can utilize Hibernate, you can utilize Toplink. So that's why, I covered Spring Data JPA. Okay, so we can implement Hibernate. You can utilize those Hibernate related mapping files and all those things. I will share it in an example, but there won't be much configurations or anything. So it is very simple to understand the Hibernate. Okay, but yeah, it follow the same step of you know creating those entities and defining those IDs. Okay, primary keys and everything, it follows the same way. Okay, what you will see the difference, you will see the difference only in writing these methods. That's it. Okay, so rest all will work fine similarly in the Spring Data JPA repository. So if you need those implementation, I can actually, I haven't completed that. Okay, so I can write one more extra class, to implement that with an Hibernate, and we can discuss it in the tomorrow class. Okay, so I'll complete that. Okay, but so you guys require, mostly you might be requiring the Spring Data JPA repository and the Hibernate implementation. Yeah, I'm already going to share that classes, like when we when I publish these projects to you guys. Okay, so you'll be having that Hibernate. But if you required something, a specific implementation, so I can add it over here and I will explain that. Okay, tomorrow. Okay, to let me know. Okay, if you require those implementation, similarly whatever we have discussed today, so I can add that. Otherwise, you will get the project at the end of the training. You will get it, and you will be seeing that Hibernate implementation also in it. Okay, let me go to the next one. Okay, yeah, so yeah, we were going to discuss a new topic, which is Docker. Okay, so yeah, before going for the Docker, actually we have to understand how the traditional deployment works. So when I said traditional means before Docker, how we are going to perform the deployments, right? So deployment process, it's kind of very big steps, okay, that we generally identify all the requirements of your projects and the system capabilities and what exactly on which OS operating system it is going to run. All those things we need to take care, and we work on couple of steps. Okay, I have defined added here a couple of steps. So the operation team, like they can help us setting up the hardware and setting up the OS, Linux, Windows, whatever it requires to run your application, and installing specific softwares like Java, Python, and Node.js. Yeah, so etc. Whatever, and you might be having a lot of application dependencies, and so those application dependencies, like you are utilizing specific libraries like Log4j, or some other you know Lombok, yeah, there are a lot of dependencies that you might have to your application. So you have to define all those uh, dependencies, and those things has to be set it up in your environment, like wherever you are trying to deploy your application, right? So later you'll be taking that, doing the last step, you're installing your application into that server, right? So these things are, we were doing it in the manual approach. Okay, not only these steps, actually we do have lot of other steps. Okay, these are very high level which I've added over here. And for these kind of steps, okay, so it will take lot of time, to getting those devices to set up, OS, to install, the required softwares, whatever it is required for you to install the application, right? So, and most of the times actually, we might see some issues because of this manual approach. Okay, somebody might miss something, okay, while installing some software. Instead of using a different version, they might go with a different version which is available in the market, so which might create some compatibility issues when you install your application into that server. So you have to, in these cases, actually, you have to go back and check where exactly it is failed and what is causing an issue. Depending on that, again, you need to request the, correct software that to be installed. And then, you can again install your application and make sure it is working fine. So all these things, which is like, taking a lot of time and, high chance of making mistakes. Okay, so how the Docker is going to resolve this problem? Okay, so we will try to learn that. Okay, yeah. So how it is going to do that? Okay, so whatever we discussed in the previous slide. Okay, so we were thinking about OS, we were thinking about the programming language, or the software which you wanted to install, and we were thinking about hardware, right? So all these things, it is it is it is not required, when we go with Docker. Actually, it is doesn't matter. Okay, so it docker docker actually, runs in a different environment. Okay, so we will see with an example. So we will, we will see with an example how this Docker is different, um, for the traditional approach, whatever we are saying. Okay, so in this one, what exactly happens? Instead of depending on the operations team to create, an environment for you, what developer will do, he will create his own Docker image. Okay, his own Docker image, you know to run your application, okay, without any support of hardware, right? So how this image getting be created, we'll be seeing several commands. Okay, so how to create these images, for your project, and how that image is going to be deployed, and how that image going to be run in the application. So sorry, not in the application, in the Docker. So yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so we are going to check on those commands, how to create those images. And once your image is get created, how we can run that image, okay, without all these requirements set up in your application. Like, that means you don't require to set up any hardware, you don't require to set up any, required softwares or dependencies, whatever you have it for that application, whatever shared by developer. You can just simply run a command, to to utilize that application, in your computer. Okay, so it is very simple command that we are going to use it, okay, to run the Docker image. So what the Docker image contains? So it contains all the dependencies, and the environment, and the required softwares. Everything will be there inside the Docker image, so which is helping your application to run, on any of the system. which doesn't have any dependencies, which doesn't have, whatever the application which is required, to run, it doesn't, that system is not having anything, but you can still run this Docker image and you can execute that, execute your application properly. Okay, so that's how it works. Okay, after seeing those commands and all, I think, it will be very easy to understand how, we were creating images and how we are utilizing that image to run. Okay, okay, this is what we were discussing, right? How Docker make it easy, right? The deployments, right? So Docker image has everything you need to run your application. So that image will contain operating system, image will contain application runtime like JDK, Python, Node.js, and application code and dependencies. Everything will be there in that image, right? Sorry. Yeah, so so you don't require to create a separate operating system, separate runtime, and separate, and you don't require to deploy anything into that particular hardware, right? So that image itself is having everything. So how you can run this image, where you can run this image, at what places you can utilize this image, right? So you can run Docker container. Okay, you can run a Docker container the same way everywhere, like, your location, your local system, that location doesn't matter. Okay, your local machine, you can run the Docker image, and you can run the corporate data center. Okay, run in the corporate data center, and you can also run this image in your cloud systems. Okay, so there is no limitation for Docker image now. You can run it, most of the places that where we utilize our projects, to run in our companies. Okay, so you can utilize this Docker image simply, and you can run your application without any problems. Okay, okay, so to get installed, right, to get installed this Docker. Okay, so what you need to do, you guys have to install, one second. You can get the Docker desktop application, okay, in your local. So you can utilize, you can create images, and you can run the container, okay, in your local system itself, and you can run those applications. Okay, so I'll share, the steps in the next class. Okay, uh, where you can pull it. It is very easy actually. You can just directly go to the Docker up. Yeah, docker.com. So yeah, so you just download whatever the version which is suitable. Like if you are using Apple, you can utilize Apple one. If you are using Windows, you can just download the Windows Docker desktop. Okay, and installing Docker desktop is like very easy. Okay, so you can just directly click next, 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 and you can directly install that one. Okay, once it is installed, it is going to ask you to sign in. So you have to create your ID, and you don't require to go with any subscriptions of Docker. The personal one, which is $0. Okay, so we are still okay with this thing. Okay, and we can directly use that. Okay, so you don't require to do any purchase or something. Okay, so just install the Docker desktop if you wanted to run this, several example, because it is very simple. Like when I publish something, if somebody was able to run that, in their local system to execute that particular application. Okay, so that would be easy. Like, I can show you guys like how the image pooling is happening, and how the Docker container, and whenever we publish something into the public repositories, how that the project is getting loaded into your local system, we can see it. Okay, so that's what and I was requesting. If anybody is interested, just download the Docker and keep it ready tomorrow. Otherwise, if you don't have the Docker installed in your system, I'll try to use some other public repository of different persons Docker image, and I'll try to get that in my system, so that that way also you can see it. Okay, how the image is getting loaded into our local, and how we can run that other person's project without any dependencies installed in my local, right? So we can check that. Okay, so let's continue the topic with more Docker commands, and a sample project that we are going to deploy into Docker, and we'll see how the Docker is minimizing our effects, okay, in the deployment process, okay, with simple commands. Okay, then, yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, it's okay to drop off.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gautami. Bye.